Hi, so I just watched the film Elvis, which is the Baz Luhrmann biopic about the king of rock and roll, and I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I'd like to discuss those in parallel to Rocketman, which I think was a much better biopic and did everything basically better than Elvis did. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the look. So Baz Luhrmann films are often very flashy and very... Anyway, Baz Luhrmann's films, they're not personally something I particularly like, but I think in a film like this, it does reflect how flashy and innovative Elvis was as a musician and how that affected the music world. But at the same time, I felt like it was just Baz Luhrmann being Baz Luhrmann. And I think, by contrast, Rocketman uses its flashiness sort of to reflect the mental state of Elton John, if you didn't know it's a film about Elton John. And I believe that works a lot better. Secondly, the use of music in Elvis is very strange. So it does use a bit of modern music at times. And I think that's sort of supposed to represent how the themes of Elvis transcend time and music, how he's innovating in the 50s and 60s so that modern creators can innovate now, which, I mean, yikes, maybe he shouldn't have been a musician. But at the same time, I feel like it makes the style even more conflicted. Yes, this is a Baz Luhrmann film which is very flashy, but at the same time, it needs to slow down at points to be more emotional, which I don't think Baz Luhrmann handles very well when you consider the other parts of the film. Rocketman, on the other hand, is a musical, and all of the songs are Elton John songs, and it demonstrates a really colourful and vibrant world, which, I mean, Elton John is supposed to be a very colourful and vibrant person. And at the same time, it sort of stands in for his mental issues, how he uses music as a form of escapism. It's what he's devoted his life to, and it's been there since the very beginning, pressing on his mind, which I believe works a lot better. And then in Elvis, we have the character of the Colonel, played by Tom Hanks' legendary role, of course, and he's illustrated to be villainous throughout the whole film, even though he claims he's not. Guys, he's not villainous, he's just misunderstood. Anyway, there's a scene in which Elvis falls over or something, like he's had too many drugs, and he falls over into some ice water, and then the Colonel says in a weird Dutch accent that he has to perform, so Dr. Nick gives him an injection and he goes on stage. And that illustrates the Colonel as a villain, which he is, and the film makes it very clear. In Rocketman, however, there's a scene in which Elton John tries to commit suicide by drowning himself in his swimming pool. That scene's great because we sort of go down into the pool and he sees like a past version of himself and they sing together and it's really emotional and cool and just, I like that song. And then he's saved by his lackeys coming in, like swimming down and saving him from drowning himself. And on the one hand, you could see that as a hopeful message that, like, they don't want him to die. They care about him. But at the same time, it's clear that what they really care about is the talent he has and how they can capitalize on that only if he's still alive, which I think is one of the best scenes in the film. It's very good at illustrating that in a subtle way, whilst also being entertaining. So, going back to Tom Hanks in his amazing role, he's presented as the villain, like he's the singular villain. And at the beginning of the film, he's like, "What? No, I'm not the villain. I didn't ruin Elvis." But yeah, he's definitely the villain. And in Rocketman, we do have Elton John's partner, Rob Stark, being the villain at points. But at the same time, it's not just that. It comes from a lot of past trauma about his childhood, his parents. There's a scene in which he goes back to his mother, and she still treats him like in such a disrespectful way that she did when he was a child. And that's really incredible, how you can feel sympathy for Elton John just by doing that. I mean, I've heard from a lot of people who didn't even really like Elton John before watching the film, and watching the film gave them a lot more sympathy for him, which, I mean, at the end of the day is really the aim of a film, to educate as well as entertain, of course. So yeah, that's great, and that's something that Elvis sort of lacks throughout the film. Like, he makes some bad choices, like taking drugs and marrying a teenager, but most of that stuff happens at the very beginning of the film. Like, a lot of it happens in a montage so we can't fully grasp it, which again is something to do with Baz Luhrmann. A few more things I'd just like to say is there's a lot of variety in Rocketman with the song choice and how they relate to his current state, whereas I swear to God, every single time Elvis is with his teenage wife, they play the song Can't Help Falling in Love with You, which gets really annoying. Also, Tom Hanks, yep, he looks like an egg, and the scenes where he's in the casino remind me of the visual style of Cats, which of course is a good thing because that was a great film, and he's great in this film. Anyway, to sum up, I mean, watch Elvis if you want, but definitely watch Rocketman, because it's much better. Also, I'd like to know your thoughts on this new style of recording. I mean, usually I write a script and I follow that, but this time I just decided to take notes and freeball it, do it off the top of my head, so I'm curious to see if you prefer that or if you want to go back to the old days. Yeah.